Imagine a world where the sky is a permanent gray, where the air stinks of chemicals, and where the only sounds you hear are the hum of machines and the distant, desperate cries of the few remaining animals. This is not a distant dystopian future. It is the world we are creating right now. We stand on the brink of a catastrophe so vast that it threatens to erase everything we hold dear. The forests are dying, the oceans are choking on plastic, and the air is toxic. Species are going extinct at a rate not seen since the dinosaurs vanished. Our cities are sprawling concrete jungles, and the natural world is being reduced to a mere afterthought, a backdrop for our endless consumption. But this crisis is not just about the environment. It is about us, our way of thinking, our values, and our relationships with each other and the world around us. We have become so focused on our own desires and needs that we have forgotten the sacredness of everything else. We see the world as a resource to be exploited, a commodity to be bought and sold. We have lost our sense of the sacred, the idea that everything, every tree, every animal, every person has inherent value and deserves respect. This crisis is not just ecological. It is a crisis of the soul. We have allowed ourselves to be dominated by a worldview that sees us as nothing more than biological machines driven by self-interest and the pursuit of material gain. We have created a society where the only measure of success is wealth and power, where the only value is what can be quantified and sold. In this world, the sacred has no place. But it wasn't always like this. In the great cultures of the past, humans saw themselves as part of a larger interconnected whole. They believed that we are not just physical beings, but spiritual ones, created in the image of something greater. They saw the natural world as a divine creation, full of hidden wisdom and beauty. Every part of the earth was sacred, from the tiniest grain of sand to the tallest mountain. They lived in harmony with nature, taking only what they needed and giving back in return. This way of thinking and living is not primitive or backward. It is a profound understanding that has been lost in the rush of modernity. We have been told that science and technology will solve all our problems, that progress means dominating and controlling nature. But the truth is that these very ideas are at the root of our crisis. They have led us to a place where we are destroying the very foundation of our existence. We are in a state of collective amnesia. We have forgotten who we are and where we come from. We have forgotten that we are not just consumers or producers, but sacred beings with a purpose that goes far beyond the material world. We have forgotten that our well-being is intimately connected to the well-being of the planet and all its inhabitants. The only way out of this crisis is to wake up from our collective delusion. We need to reclaim a sense of the sacred, to see ourselves and the world as interconnected and interdependent. We need to remember that we are not just individuals, but part of a larger community. A community that includes not just other humans, but all living things. This is not a call to return to some idealized past. It is a call to a new way of thinking and living, one that honors the sacredness of all life. It is a call to build a community where everyone and everything has a place, where we treat each other and the natural world with respect and reverence. The journey ahead is not easy. It will require us to question everything we think we know, to challenge the assumptions that have led us to this point. But it is a journey worth taking, because the alternative is a future we cannot bear to imagine. The time to act is now. The future of the planet and of our own souls depends on it. Cecile Andrews believed that laughter is the key to building a strong community. For her, Laughter means that people are enjoying each other and feeling accepted. When we laugh together, we're not worried about how much money we make or how big our house is. We just feel glad to be alive and to be with our friends. Cécile and her husband wanted to find a sense of community, so they joined a book club, but it didn't work out as they had hoped. Instead of feeling like a group of friends, it felt like a college class where everyone was being graded. Cécile felt judged and worried about saying the wrong thing. She ended up dreading the meetings and eventually left the club. When her neighbors suggested starting a book club, Cécile said no. Instead, they started a video club. Every last Friday of the month, they gather to watch a movie. The pressure is less, and the focus is on having fun and laughing together. This is what Cécile values in a community: people enjoying each other's company and feeling accepted. Cécile learned about the importance of acceptance from a quote she found in her father's things after he died. The quote said, "A friend is not someone who is taken in by sham. A friend is one who knows your faults and doesn't give a damn." This means that true friends accept you for who you are, faults and all. Cécile believes that we need to have a group of people where we can be our true selves. This is especially true with neighbors who see us in our everyday lives. They know us in a way that co-workers or people from church might not. Neighbors can help each other with small things, like taking care of a pet, or big things like supporting each other during tough times. Cécile talks about different ways to build community, like in urban villages. These are areas that are smaller than a city but larger than a neighborhood. In these places, people organize food co-ops, community gardens, and toolbanks. They also have neighborhood centers where people can gather for activities and classes. One example is the Finney Neighborhood Association in Seattle, which turned an old school into a community center. It offers yoga, salsa, dancing, and even classes on earthquake safety. The center is a place where people can meet, learn, and help each other. Another way to build community is at the neighborhood level. Cécile remembers living in graduate student housing where the apartments were built around a courtyard. This made it easy to meet neighbors and build friendships. In contrast, suburban living often isolates people. Houses are far apart, and there are no places to walk to. This can lead to a culture of consumerism, where people buy more to fill the void of loneliness. Cécile also talks about the importance of neighborhood stores. She lives near a small grocery store where the staff knows her by name. When she goes shopping, she often runs into friends. This improves her social life and makes her feel connected to her community. Town centers are another way to build community. These are areas with shops, cafes, and other places where people can gather. Cécile describes a shopping district near her home that has a small mall with shops on the bottom floors and apartments on the top. It's a place where she can meet friends and feel part of the community. Celebrations are also important for building community. Cécile and her friends have singing parties and sock hops. These are fun events where people can relax and enjoy each other's company. Other neighborhoods have cooking co-ops, where families take turns cooking meals for each other. Some people even plan annual events like 4th of July potlucks or Christmas caroling. Cécile also talks about how people are changing their living patterns to build community. More adults are sharing houses or forming co-housing communities. These are places where people live in smaller houses around a community center. Seniors are forming cooperatives so they can have support without going to a nursing home. Finally, Cécile mentions how people are coming together to serve their communities. Many people volunteer to build homes for the poor or go on alternative vacations to help others. This not only helps the community, but also brings people closer together. For Cécile, the key to building community is creating a place where people can laugh, enjoy each other, and feel accepted. When we have that, we don't need to prove our worth through money or status. We just need to be ourselves and be with people who value us for who we are. The shortest day of the year, the darkest winter solstice at the Moab Slough. I stand here as an act of faith, believing the sun has completed its southern journey and is now thinking about its return toward light. A few hundred miles south, the Hopi celebrate Soyalangol, a time to start life anew for the whole world. At dawn, they take their prayer sticks, pahos, to a shrine on the edge of the mesa and plant them firmly in the earth. These pahos, decorated with feathers, make prayers to the sun, the moon, the fields, and the orchards. The feathers call for blessings of health, love, and a full life for humans and animals. For 4 days, the Hopi return to their shrine and repeat their heartfelt prayers. My heart finds peace in these wetlands, especially in winter. It's quiet and cold. The heat of summer has been absorbed into the red rocks. Most of the 150 bird species that visit these marshes have flown south. Snowy egrets and avocets have followed their instincts. The cattails and bulrushes are brittle and brown. Sheets of ice become windows to another world below. 2 great blue herons fly over me. Their slow wing beats remind me that energy is being conserved all around. I can slow my breath too, and let my body restore what society has taken away. I remember the last time I stood here near the solstice, June 1991. The Moab Slough was named the Scott M. Matheson Wetland Preserve. The Nature Conservancy set aside over 800 acres to protect this wild place. A community gathered under blue skies to celebrate this oasis in the desert. A yellow and white tent was set up for shade as we listened to our elders. A place of renewal, Mrs. Norma Matheson said, honoring her husband, the governor of Utah, whose life and death would be remembered here. A geography of hope, echoed Wallace Stegner. That these delicate lands have survived the people who exploited them is a miracle. We stood strong and watched as a red-tailed hawk, once wounded but now healed, was released. The hawk flew west with strong, rapid wing beats, and I squinted, following her until she disappeared against the sandstone cliffs. Later, I found a small, striated feather on the ground and took it home as a reminder of the wildness around us. D.H. Lawrence wrote, "In every living thing there is a desire for love, for unity with the rest of the world." I think about my own desires, how cautious I've become with love. It's a vulnerable thing to feel deeply, and I worry I might not survive my affections, Andre Breton said. Hardly anyone dares to face the great delights of love. If I don't get attached to people, places, or things, then when I refuse love or see a landscape destroyed, my heart won't break because I never risked giving it away. But what kind of life is that? To hold back emotion and stifle our passionate nature just to avoid pain. A life without deep connections leads to isolation and harm to the environment. We've taken our love inside and left the wild behind. Audre Lorde said, "We are taught to fear our deepest cravings, and this fear keeps us docile and obedient. The 2 herons who flew over me are not afraid of love. They are not controlled by fear. They are fully present in their world, like feathered Buddhas, casting blue shadows on the snow, fishing on the shortest day of the year. Pahos, prayer, feathers, darkness now light. The winter solstice turns in me. I plant my own prayer stick firmly in the mud of this marsh, 800 acres of wetlands. It's nothing, it's everything. We are a group of broken individuals who can only celebrate the bits of wildness left. One red-tailed hawk, two great blue herons. The land is love. Love is what we fear. To disconnect from the earth is to oppress ourselves. I stand on the edge of these wetlands, a place of renewal, an oasis in the desert, believing the sun has completed its journey and is now thinking about its return toward light. In the heart of the house, the kitchen is more than just a place to cook. It's a sanctuary where life's transformations happen. When I knead the dough, I feel a deep connection to the process of creation. The dough, once lifeless, becomes a living entity as the yeast works its magic. I shape the dough into a ball and place it in a bowl, covering it with a linen cloth. This simple act is a ritual, a moment of reverence for the natural processes that sustain us. As the dough rests, the yeast begins to thrive, feeding on the sugars in the flour and producing carbon dioxide. This gas causes the dough to rise, expanding it into a light, airy structure. The kitchen fills with a unique scent, a sign that the transformation is underway. During this time, I step away, often leaving the kitchen to tend to other tasks. Yet, the process continues, a silent but powerful reminder of the ongoing cycles of life and growth. When the dough has risen, I gently transfer it to an oiled pan and cover it once more. The dough rests again, growing in volume as the yeast continues its work. Finally, the moment comes to place the pan in the hot oven. The heat causes the yeast to become more active, and the dough rises even more. As the bread bakes, the kitchen is filled with the comforting aroma of fresh bread, a scent that has brought joy to people for generations. The bread that emerges from the oven is more than just food. It is a symbol of sustenance and community. It represents the culmination of a process that involves not only the ingredients but also the care and attention given to them. The bread, once baked, is ready to nourish and bring people together. It is a humble reminder of the interconnectedness of all things and the beauty of simple everyday rituals. Another ritual that takes place in the house involves a white container on the kitchen counter. This container is where we collect food scraps, the leftovers from our meals. Once a day, I take this container to the basement and empty it into a large wooden chest. This chest is a miniature ecosystem, a world within a world. It is home to a community of red wigglers, small worms that work tirelessly to transform our food waste into rich, fertile soil. The worm bin is a fascinating place, a window into the world of invertebrates. When I lift the lid, I see a bustling community of life. The worms, along with other tiny creatures, break down the food scraps, turning them into a valuable resource. This process is not just about waste management. It is a celebration of the cycles of life and death, of decay and renewal. My grandson Justin loves to visit the worm bin. He watches the worms with wide-eyed wonder, holding them gently in his hands. For him, these creatures are a source of endless fascination. He doesn't fully understand the ecological importance of the worms, but his wonder is genuine and pure. We talk a little, but mostly we watch, absorbed in the activity of this tiny world. In the spring, we will use the compost from the worm bin to enrich the garden. Justin will help me spread the compost, a tangible connection to the cycle of growth and renewal. He will also help gather herbs from the garden, carefully washing each leaf and preparing them for use in the kitchen. This cycle of giving and receiving, of nurturing and being nurtured, is a fundamental part of our lives. One summer, I heard about a tragic event in Alaska. The governor had ordered wolves to be herded together with helicopters and then shot. This was done to increase the caribou population and attract more hunters. The news left me feeling a deep sense of loss and sadness. I couldn't understand why we continued to interfere with the delicate balance of nature, driven by economic interests rather than a respect for the natural world. I sat on the porch, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. As I watched my tears fall to the ground, I imagined them being absorbed by the earth, traveling through the water cycle and eventually reaching the Alaskan streams where the wolves would drink. It was a strange and profound connection, a reminder that we are all part of a larger, interconnected web of life. This experience taught me about the potential extent of human compassion. I felt a deep connection to the wolves, even though I had never seen one in the wild. Their loss was my loss, a reminder that our well-being is tied to the well-being of all living things. This realization inspired me to act, to write letters, and join others in advocating for the protection of the wolves. Eventually, the governor rescinded his order. A small victory for the wolves and a sign of the power of collective action. These stories, from the kitchen to the basement to the wilds of Alaska, are all connected. They remind us of the sacredness of life and the importance of compassion. When we open our hearts to the world around us, we discover a deeper sense of connection and purpose. The walls of separation that we build to protect ourselves from pain can also keep us from experiencing the fullness of life. By embracing our interconnectedness, we can find joy in the simple acts of daily life. Whether it's kneading dough, tending to a worm bin, or advocating for the protection of wildlife, these actions are part of a larger dance of creation. They remind us that we are all part of a beautiful, complex, and sacred tapestry. In this chapter, we dive into the heart of the course by sharing our stories and getting to know each other. The goal is to create a comfortable and supportive environment where everyone feels valued and heard. This is not just a class. It's a community where we can explore the ideas of simplicity and compassion together. The facilitator starts by welcoming everyone and making sure everyone has a copy of the book. After brief introductions, the facilitator leads an opening meditation and prayer to set a calm and focused tone. Then the group reads an introductory passage by Michael Schutt, which sets the stage for the course. The passage talks about how this course is all about sharing stories, yours and those in the readings. It's about where you are, who you are, and what brings you here. Next, each person has a chance to share a part of their story. This isn't about giving a long, detailed biography. It's about sharing something that helps others understand why you're interested in simplicity and compassion. Maybe it's a moment that changed your perspective, or a challenge you faced, or a dream you have. The idea is to connect with each other on a personal level. As you listen to others, try to really focus on understanding their story. Don't worry about comparing it to your own, or thinking about what you'll say next. Just be present and listen. When it's your turn to share, take your time and speak from the heart. It's okay to be vulnerable. This is a safe space. After everyone has shared, the group discusses the introductory reading. What did you think about the idea of moving from an achievement-oriented life to one centered on compassion and relatedness? How does this resonate with your own experiences? What questions or thoughts does it bring up for you? The facilitator will guide the discussion, making sure everyone has a chance to speak and that the conversation stays positive and supportive. This is a time to explore different perspectives and learn from each other. At the end of the meeting, the group decides who will facilitate the next session. This is a way to ensure that everyone has a role in the community and that the responsibility is shared. Before you leave, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned and how you feel. Jot down your thoughts in your journal, if you have one. Think about what you hope to get out of this course and what you can contribute to the group. The readings for the next meeting are about worldviews and how they shape our understanding of reality. They include worldview as inheritance, traditional Western view of reality, and healing ourselves and the earth. If you have extra time, you can also read Sacred Cosmology and the Ecological Crisis. This first meeting is just the beginning. It's a chance to connect, to share, and to set the foundation for a journey of learning and growth together. As you sit down with your group, take a moment to think about the course and what you've learned so far. The guidelines and logistics are important, but the real magic happens when you start to connect with each other on a deeper level. This is where you can share your stories, your hopes, and your fears. It's a space where everyone is equal and everyone has something valuable to contribute. The idea of listening to your life, as Frederick Buechner suggests, is about paying attention to the moments that matter. It's about recognizing the joy, the laughter, and even the pain. These are all part of your story, and they can help you understand yourself better. Buechner's story is a powerful example of how facing pain can lead to healing and a deeper connection with God and others. He talks about how the pressure to be a certain kind of Christian led to a sense of duty and guilt, which ultimately drained the joy from his life. But by listening to his own experiences and sharing them with a caring community, he found a way to reconnect with his true self and with God. This course is designed to help you do the same. It's not just about learning new information. It's about reflecting on your own life and the choices you make. The goal is to move toward a simpler, more compassionate way of living. This means paying attention to your relationships, not just with other people, but with the natural world as well. As David Orr points out, our alienation from nature is a big problem, and healing that relationship is essential for our survival. During the group discussion, you'll have the chance to share more about yourself. You might talk about where you come from, what your family is like, and what kind of work you do. You could also share a time when you felt a sense of abundance or joy. Think about how listening to others can help you understand the concept of simplicity as compassion. Why did you decide to take this course? How do you see connections between your faith and simplicity? What are your hopes for this course? After everyone has had a chance to speak, you can reflect on what you've heard. What are your expectations for the course? Share them with the group in a sentence or two. The action step for this week is to think about a relationship in your life that needs more attention. It could be with a friend, a family member, or even with nature. Is there a small step you can take to nurture that relationship? You might want to share this with the group if you feel comfortable. Before you leave, don't forget to choose the next facilitator for the next meeting. This is a great way to make sure everyone has a chance to lead and contribute to the group. In the next meeting, you'll dive deeper into the topic of worldviews and how they shape your life. You'll read some essays and have discussions about how your worldview affects your views on simplicity. The goal is to understand how your beliefs and values influence the way you live and relate to others. The meeting will start with a meditation and a reading from Matthew chapter 6, verse 25-34, which talks about not worrying and trusting in God. You'll share your thoughts on the action step from the last meeting, and then break into small groups to discuss how your childhood and the people around you shaped your sense of self. You also talk about how your worldview includes or excludes care for the natural world. When you come back together as a group, you'll discuss how the Western worldview nurtures or fails to nurture compassion. You'll also share your thoughts on Bhagav's essay and talk about beliefs within Western Christianity that might need rethinking. You'll describe your feelings about simplicity and share your ideas about what simplicity means to you. The closing prayer will remind you that God has created a beautiful world and that you are part of it. You'll be encouraged to stay centered and focused on your deepest values and aspirations. You might choose to keep a journal, meditate, pray, spend time in nature, or slow down to help you stay focused. In the third meeting, you'll explore the history of simplicity in American culture and Christianity. You'll read some quotes from the Bible and discuss how simplicity has been practiced in the past. You'll pair up to discuss what draws you to simplicity and whether you agree with David Shee's assessment that the movement towards simplicity will remain a minority concern. You'll also talk about the traditions described in the readings and how they relate to your own experience. The action step for this meeting is to think about what more you can do to stay centered and focused on your values. You might choose one thing to work on this week and share it with the group. This course is a journey of self-discovery and connection. By listening to your life and sharing your story, you can find a simpler, more compassionate way of living. In the middle of the book, the characters find themselves in a quiet, peaceful forest. The air is fresh, and the only sounds are the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant calls of birds. It's a place where time seems to slow down, and the worries of the world fade away. Ella and her friends sit on a blanket under a big oak tree. They've been talking about the idea of simplicity and how it can make life better. Ella shares a story about her grandmother, who always said that the best things in life are simple. She would often sit in the garden, just enjoying the sun and the flowers, and felt more peaceful and happy than when she was rushing around. Her friend Max listens and nods. He talks about how he used to feel like he needed to be busy all the time, like he had to be doing something important every second. But he realized that all that rushing around made him feel stressed and tired. He started to take short breaks during the day, just to sit quietly and breathe. He found that these little moments of rest helped him feel more calm and focused. Another friend, Lily, adds that she's been trying to simplify her life too. She's been getting rid of things she doesn't need and focusing on what really matters to her. She says it's like clearing out the clutter in her mind, and it's made her feel more free and content. They all agree that sometimes the best way to find happiness is to slow down and enjoy the simple things. They decide to spend the rest of the afternoon just being together, talking, and enjoying the beauty of the forest. As the sun begins to set, they feel a sense of peace and connection. They realize that in the quiet moments, they can hear their own thoughts more clearly and feel more connected to each other and the world around them. They leave the forest feeling refreshed and inspired, ready to bring more simplicity and calm into their lives. In the last part of our journey together, we've explored many deep and important ideas about how we live, what we value, and how our choices affect the world around us. We've talked about time, simplicity, and the role of money in our lives. We've also looked at the bigger picture, considering how our actions impact not just ourselves, but also others and the planet. One of the most powerful messages we've encountered is that everything is interconnected. The choices we make no matter how small they seem, have ripple effects that can reach far beyond our immediate surroundings. For example, when we buy something, we're not just making a personal decision, we're also supporting a global system that has real consequences for people and the environment. One of the key ideas we've discussed is the concept of enough. In a world where more is often seen as better, it's important to ask ourselves, how much is enough? This isn't just about being frugal or denying ourselves the things we enjoy. It's about finding a balance that allows us to live fulfilling lives while also being mindful of the impact our choices have on others and the planet. We've also talked about the importance of community and compassion. In a world that often emphasizes individual success, it's easy to forget that we are all connected. When we care for others and the world around us, we not only make a positive difference, but we also enrich our own lives. Compassion isn't just a nice thing to do. It's essential for creating a world where everyone can thrive. Another important theme has been the idea of simplicity. Simplicity isn't about living a life of deprivation. It's about focusing on what truly matters and letting go of the things that don't. When we simplify our lives, we create space for the things that bring us joy and fulfillment. We also reduce our impact on the environment and free up resources for those who need them most. Throughout our discussions, we've heard from many wise voices who have challenged us to think differently about the world and our place in it. We've learned that change is possible even in the face of overwhelming systems. By making small, intentional choices, we can contribute to a more just and compassionate world. As we come to the end of this journey, I hope you found these discussions helpful and thought-provoking. The most important thing is not to have all the answers, but to keep asking questions and to keep taking steps, no matter how small, toward living a life that reflects your values and makes a positive difference. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. It's a lifelong process of growth and discovery. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making a difference. The world needs your compassion, your wisdom, and your courage. Thank you for being a part of this community, and I look forward to seeing where your journey takes you.